CenterPoint has a feature that allows you to set up the different kinds of leave that you award your employees, keep track of their leave balance, accrue new leave, and deduct from their leave balance any leave taken. There are two different methods to setting up leave within CenterPoint. One is through a leave setup wizard and leave setup configuration wizard, and the other one is through a manual process that involves 4 different steps. This video is going to cover the leave setup and leave setup configuration wizard. Setting up leave using the leave setup configuration wizard and the leave setup wizard is by far the most efficient way to set up leave within CenterPoint. To set up leave using the leave setup wizard, we'll go to Setup, Payroll Details, and Leave Categories. When we go to Leave Categories, we're going to click on New. And it's going to ask you a question whether or not you want to use the Leave Setup Wizard or whether or not you want to go through the process manually by clicking No. We're going to click Yes to get into the Leave Setup Wizard. On this introductory screen, we're going to click Next. And it's going to ask us for an abbreviation and a name for this leave item. Each abbreviation needs to be unique and it's 10 characters or less, and then you can put in a name for that leave item. After that, you're going to click Next, and it's going to ask you what that leave is calculated based on. And this is going to determine the beginning of each leave year. So is the beginning of each leave year for an employee their eligibility date anniversary? Is it a calendar year anniversary, or is it a fiscal year anniversary? For the leave that I'm setting up, we're going to choose eligibility date anniversary and then click Next. Then it'll ask you for the accrual method. Are you going to be accruing that leave annually? Which would be usually just once. If you're using either calendar year or fiscal year, it'll be done just once a year at the beginning of either the calendar year or fiscal year. If you're using eligibility date, you'll probably have to run the leave accrual process every month because different employees have different hire dates. If you choose the option of monthly, then you will be running an accrual process to accrue the leave once a month. The next option is called hours worked, and that is when you are awarding a certain portion of their leave for every hour that they work. And an example of that might be if you have a full-time employee who works 40 hours a week and for a total of 2,080 hours for the year, and that if they're awarded 40 hours of vacation each year, then you would take that 40 hours of vacation and divide it by the 2,080 hours. And that's going to come up with a percentage that you're going to apply to each hour worked. And then the last option is on a fixed rate, and that's where you have so many hours or a certain portion of hours that is awarded to each employee, and usually on each pay period, but it might be some other agreed upon frequency. So those are your different options. We're going to award ours on a monthly basis. So that's the option that we're selecting there. I'm going to click Next, and then it's going to ask us if we have any limits and maximums. And by checking these boxes, you'll be able to have that additional feature of being able to set up either a limit or a maximum when we set up our leave table. So it's going to ask you, do you have a carryover limit? So do you limit the number of hours of that leave item that an employee can carry over from one leave balance year to the next? If you do, you'll select that option. We don't have a leave carryover limit, so I'm not going to select it. Do you have an available maximum? If you do, then you'll select that. That's when you are limiting how much total leave a person can have in their balance at any given time. So after they've reached that maximum, they won't accrue any additional leave until they've used it. Do you have an accrual maximum? This option is used most often with the hours worked method. As an example, you might want to accrue leave for them for only the regular hours that they work and not the overtime hours that they work. So that would be a good example of where you might apply something like an accrual maximum. I'm going to click next. And then it's going to ask us, when do you want to calculate this leave? So you can either accrue the leave through a manual process or on each pay run. The type of leave that I'm configuring is one that is done only once a month. Well, that might not coincide with how I run my payroll, so I probably want to do it through a manual process. Okay, I run my payroll once every 2 weeks, so that doesn't work to do it on the pay run. Next, we're going to create the leave category. We're probably going to give it the same name. You can change the abbreviation and name here for the leave category if you wanted to, but you'll typically leave it the same name. And then click next. And it's going to ask us if we have employees that need to work a certain amount of time before they can accrue or use the leave hours. So do we have a wait period? And if we do, we'll say yes. If not, we'll say no. I'm going to say yes just so you can see the screens that come after that. It'll ask us what that wait period is. And I'm going to say that mine is 6 months. So you have the option of hours, days, and months there. And then I'm going to click next, and it'll ask us how you want to award hours that might have accrued during that wait period. Do you want to award those hours back at the beginning of their eligibility date, or do you want to only award those hours after the wait period? And we're going to choose back at the beginning of the eligibility date. Then it's going to ask you to set up your leave table. And notice here that I have a column for maximum hours available because that was one of the limits that I had selected when I was on that previous screen. If I had selected a carryover limit, I would have a column for that as well. Okay, so on mine, I'm going to say from 0 to 2 years, we get 3.33 hours per month. And we can only have in our leave balance 44 hours at any given time. That's the maximum. From 2 to 5 years, we are going to get 6.67, and our maximum available hours grows to 88 hours. From 5 to 10 years, we are going to allow 10 hours per month, and we can have a total of 132 hours in our balance at any time. And then from 10 to 99 years of service, we are going to award 13.33 hours per month. And the maximum that we can have in our leave balance at any given time is 176. Once we're done selecting or setting up that leave table, we click next. And we're pretty much done with the leave setup wizard. The next part is going into what we call the leave setup configuration wizard. So I'm going to get a choice as to whether or not I want to run that now. And I'm going to say yes, but you can say no, and it can be run separately from the leave setup wizard. It kind of makes it look like one process, though, by running them one after the other. So the leave setup configuration wizard part that I'm going into now basically assigns the leave to each of the employees that you want it assigned to. So I'm going to click next on this, and the first thing it's going to ask me is which employees do I want to assign it to? And I might need to go through this multiple times to get it assigned to all of the employees that I need to. So for example, I'll first assign it to salary and then maybe come back and assign it to hourly employees. So I want those salary people that are full-time employees, and then click next. I'm going to create, so if I have already set up my leave earnings, then it'll give me an option to select a leave earning. By the fact that I don't have a leave earning selection option here, it means that I haven't created any leave earnings yet. So I'm going to create an earning right now, and this is going to be used to when we're doing a pay run to track the number of hours of leave that an employee takes. So we're going to call it vacation. You could give it a different abbreviation and name here if you wanted to. And I'm going to choose an expense account here called, I'm just going to put this to my regular salary and wages expense account. Then I'm going to click next. And these are the salary people that are full-time. If I don't want to assign it to one of them, I could just take a check mark out of them. I want to assign it to all of them, so I'm going to click next. And then it's going to ask me if I want to enter in my beginning leave balances. Well, we're beginning payroll as of July 1st of this particular year. And so I'm going to set my leave balances up as of 6/30 of the same year. So that's going to be my beginning leave balance date. And then I'm going to click next. And it's going to ask me what that leave balance is. So if you're moving from one system to a next, they may have leave already accumulated. And so this allows you to enter that in. So I'm going to put in, there are different leave balances here. I only have a few people who have, well, actually I have more than a few people that have leave balances. So we're going to go ahead and put in their leave balances. And then we'll click next. And that allows me to, that's all I need for those employees. When I click finish, it's going to ask me if I want to go through that process again. And so if I have additional employees that I want to set it up for, I'll continue through that process. I'm going to click no to just show you how you can access that leave setup configuration wizard at a later time. So I'm going to click no. And I'm going to close out of this screen. If I want to take a leave that's already been set up and assign it to more employees, I want to run the leave setup configuration wizard. So to do that, I would go to Setup, Payroll Details, and Leave. And then I'm going to right click on the leave and say that I want to assign it to employees. And then it takes me into the leave setup configuration wizard, and I'm going to click next. Now I can say that I want to assign this to hourly employees that are full-time. And it's just going to be the same process that I went through before for the salary employees. But this time, because I already have a leave earning created, I can use that same leave earning for these employees. So I get two options on this screen this time. Do I want to use one I've already got, or do I want to create a new leave earning? And I'm just going to use the one I already have. It'll show me which employees it's going to add it to. And if I don't want to add it to any of those, I can unmark them. And then it'll ask me for the date that I want to put in the leave balances. I'll use that same date. Click next, and then put in the leave balances for these employees. And then click next, and I can click finish. And I can continue through the wizard if I need to assign it to more employees, or I'm going to click cancel to say that I'm done with that. Now, one of the things that the leave setup wizard or the leave setup configuration wizard here did was it assigned it to my employees. So I can see that by going to setup and employees. And if I go into one of the employees, I can see that it not only took and assigned the earning to the employee. So here's the vacation earning. One thing that I might still want to do is if I need to allocate this to any profit centers, locations, and so on, any of the management details, I might want to enter in that here. I'll want to also check the rate on any employees that I need to. This is an hourly person, so they're going to have a pay rate in there. On a salary, that rate would probably be 0. And then the other thing it did was it assigned the leave item to the employees. So if I highlight the leave item, you'll see here that it has been assigned to the employee, and then also an adjustment has been made below to get in their initial leave balance. If I wanted to report any of that information, particularly the leave balance information after I've entered that in, you can go to Reports and reports again. And up at the top, if you just type in leave, it'll show you all of the reports having to do with leave. And the employee leave balances report is where you would be able to view the balances that you put in for those employees. Okay, so it was put in adjustments, and it'll show you what hours they have available. After you've completed this process, you're done with your leave setup and you're ready to begin accruing leave. And there is a video that is available on how to calculate the paid leave.